Hello, welcome to the channel. So I recently got to watch the new DC movie The Batman. So this video I'm just going to talk about my initial thoughts and reactions to the film. Now before we get into it, don't forget, hit the thumbs up below. I'm going to try and get through this as quick as I can because I'm aware that I do kind of go off on tangents and waffle about stuff. But be aware, it is probably still going to go on for quite a while. I am probably going to have to chop bits out where I am waffling and going off on tangents. So let's get on. So first of all, there's probably a few things you need to know about the movie. I think firstly, it is almost 3 hours long. So if you go and watch it, make sure you're sitting comfortably because you're going to be there for quite a while. Secondly, you may have heard or read online about the film having certain woke elements to it. It does. There's only one bit that I found to be really kind of on the nose, as it were. If that's something that annoys you, just try and ignore it, try and gloss over it, and don't let that ruin your enjoyment of the film. That's what I would say. Now, the third thing you'd need to know, and this is the important thing, you need to bear this in mind. The Batman is not about the Batman. In fact, the Batman is not even in the film. Now, this may sound a bit weird, so let me explain. Director Matt Reeves decided he did not want this film to be part of the DC extended universe or cinematic universe, whatever you want to call it. So this film takes place in another version of the DC universe, in another timeline, somewhere else out in the DC multiverse, which means this version of Batman is not a younger version of the Ben Affleck version of Batman, which basically means they can change any of the storylines or the characters, do whatever they want, and if you or anyone else complains about it, they just say, different version, different timeline, different universe, it's all different. Okay, just be aware of that, bear it in mind, because I'm pretty sure that point is going to crop up later on. Okay, so what about the characters? So good guys, we've got Batman, we've got Alfred, we've got Commissioner Gordon, who's not actually a commissioner yet. So Batman / Bruce Wayne. Now I always feel that some actors are good as Batman and not as Bruce Wayne. Some actors are good as Bruce Wayne, not as Batman. Some actors are good as both. Robert Pattinson, Bruce Wayne, no, terrible. He's just a complete drip. It's like someone's kind of decided, wouldn't a good model for Bruce Wayne be a cross between like floppy-haired Hugh Grant and Robert Smith from The Cure? And he's not. He's just his floppy-haired, teary-eyed wuss. He's just terrible. However, his Batman, fantastic. I really liked his version of Batman. I was really surprised. I wasn't sure what he was going to be like, and I thought he was a very good Batman. Maybe not going to be my favourite one, but he's certainly up there. Let's see how he does in any future films, but very good Batman. Alfred is played by Andy Serkis, who I usually like. He's very good at what he does. But I tend to think of my comic book characters generally as they are in the comics. So I think of Alfred as being older. So Andy Serkis is a younger version of him. He's more like the version from, if you watch the old Gotham TV series, where Alfred was played by Sean Pertwee. This is like Gotham 10 years later, because I think Bruce Wayne's a teenager in Gotham. So this is like Gotham 10 years later. So he's a younger version of Alfred. I didn't really kind of get an Alfred vibe off him, you know, but he's okay. It doesn't really have a lot to do. Honestly, it's like, oh, Master Bruce, I'm opening the mail. Master Bruce, I'm reading the paper. He only gets one really good scene, and he is very good in that. Rest of the time, like I say, he doesn't seem to get much to do. Let's hope he gets more in future films. And then Commissioner Gordon, or Jim Gordon, I think he's Lieutenant Gordon in this. Again, like Alfred, I tend to think of him like he is in the comics, so I tend to think of him as this old grey-haired white guy with a moustache. And in this, he's a sort of middle-aged, going grey black guy with a moustache. So this is one of the changes they've made. They've race-swapped him. He's played by an actor called Jeffrey Wright, I think it is. And I kept trying to think where I'd seen him before, and I couldn't think of anything. And I remembered later on he's in Marvel's What If TV show. He does the voice for the Watcher. So that threw me off a little bit to start with, just for the first scene, and then I kind of gradually just ignored it. Although I did realise, later on, I realised that at some point during the film, because he looks different to what I'm thinking of as Jim Gordon, at some point I was just thinking of him as, that's that detective that's helping Batman out. So yeah, it kind of didn't quite work as Jim Gordon for me, you know, not any fault with the actor. And again, like Alfred, he doesn't really seem to have a lot to do. He seems to spend most of the film being Batman's sidekick, you know. He's getting Batman into crime scenes, and he's sort of asking Batman questions. Why Batman? Who Batman? Your mascara's running, Batman. So he doesn't seem to have a lot to do. When he does get a scene with a bit more kind of in it for him, again, he's very good. Just most of the time, he kind of seems like Batman's sidekick. And then we've got villains. So we've got Catwoman, we've got Penguin, we've got Riddler, and a couple of others. So Catwoman, Selena Kyle, this is Zoe Kravitz, and I like her in Fantastic Beasts. She's pretty good as Catwoman in this, but she's not really behaving very Catwomanish. I'm expecting her to be breaking into places and doing burglaries and stealing gems and diamonds and money and works of art and paint. No, she's kind of wandering around just going, I've lost my girlfriend. Have you seen my girlfriend? Can you help me find my girlfriend? And that threw me off a little bit to start with, because I wasn't sure if they meant girlfriend or girlfriend. So I was thinking, okay, so is this version of Catwoman supposed to be gay? Because usually Catwoman and Batman, they got a bit of a thing going. So I was like, is she gay? But apparently this version of Catwoman is bisexual. So she can have a bit of this, she can get into a bit of that. It's all good. Then we get introduced in the film to Catwoman's father. So I'll tell you this straight away, I hated that bit. Basically they've taken a Batman character and just basically said, yeah, that's her father. Now, the character they've picked, this does crop up in, I think, one storyline that I'm aware of, the Long Halloween storyline, which seems to be a big inspiration for the film. There's a part of that where Catwoman thinks this character may be her father, and she goes off to get evidence and get proof of it, but she never finds anything. So there's never any proof, there's never any evidence to say this character is actually her father. She just decides she thinks he is. But in the film, they just go, yeah, that's her father. I absolutely hated that. I was like, no, he's not. He's not her father. So they've got this whole relationship going on that they don't have in the comics. So I kind of didn't like that, you know. And then, Catwoman. Her Catwoman outfit. So she's got the Catwoman suit on, the cat suit thing going on. All looks very good. She's got a whip, great. But then to top it off, her mask, she's got like a woolly ski mask with like a slot for her eyes, and you know, nothing sort of underneath her nose, so you can understand what she's saying. But it's like a woolly ski mask. I kept expecting her to turn up with a little bobble on top of it, so that looked pretty silly. They didn't really go with the rest of it. I didn't really like that. And then, one more thing with Catwoman. Zoe Kravitz, she's got her hair cut very Catwoman-like. It's very short. It's plastered to her head. She looks really good as Catwoman. She makes a very good Catwoman. But she's very thin. She's very thin. She's very slim. She's very skinny. And with this hairstyle, with her hair plastered to her head, every so often there would be a shot and I'd look at her and think, wow, her head looks huge. It just looked huge. There are shots of Catwoman and Batman together where she's taken the mask off and he's got the Batman outfit on. He's got the big ears and the nose and like the cheek bits, all the ridges on it. He's got his, and her head still looks bigger than his when he's wearing the thing. So that, I found that just distracting. Every so often you'd get a shot and I'd just be sitting there thinking, yeah, her head looks huge. So there's that. Penguin, Colin Farrell plays the Penguin. Fantastic. One of the absolute standouts of the film for me. They've gone a more realistic route. They've tried to make it look like someone could realistically look and be the Penguin. So he's wearing a fat suit, he's covered in prosthetic makeup, but it looks like the only part of Colin Farrell are the eyes and like inside of his mouth. And he is absolutely fantastic. But he's not actually the Penguin at this point. This is him prior to being the Penguin. He's working for someone else. But yeah, he is absolutely fantastic in it. He pretty much steals any scene he's in, Colin Farrell. He does also have a spin-off TV series coming up. I don't know how interesting that's going to be. Penguin before he's the Penguin. But, and then we've got the Riddler. Now, he's the main villain in the film. And has to be said, again, different universe, different timeline, different version of the Riddler. I hate this version of the Riddler. I absolutely hate it. His costume, I realise they want to make him more realistic, so they didn't want the green suit and the bowler hat, they didn't want a guy in green lycra, but he looks like he's got some janky old coat he's stolen off a Down and Out and painted a couple of question marks on it, and then he's wearing a green gimp mask. That is what it looks like. And just to make it worse, he wears glasses, and because he's wearing this gimp mask, he's got to wear the glasses outside the mask. He looks like an idiot. Absolutely hate it. Just no. And you get to a point later on, he's talking to Batman. They're having a sort of this conversation / interrogation, and they're talking at cross purposes to start with, and you don't realise, and then you get partway through it and the Riddler just flips out. And he just starts shouting, no, no, no. And that just kills him. Up to that point, I didn't like the outfit. I was kind of okay-ish with the character. He still leaves riddles like the, Riddler in the comic. But instead of stealing things and robbing banks and leaving these riddles for Batman and the police to try and work out what he's going to do next, or to try and work out where he is, he's kind of kidnapping and murdering people and leaving riddles. So he's not like the Riddler anyway, but then he gets to this point and he just flips out, and it's like he's mentally deranged. It's like he's a psychopath. All of a sudden, it's just not like the Riddler to absolutely hate it. Just killed the character off for me. So yeah, Riddler character, absolutely hate him. A couple of other villains in there. We've got Carmine Falcone, who you may know. He's head of the Falcone crime family. They're a crime family. They're not supervillains. They're, a crime family. They run crime businesses in Gotham. So he's in there. He's okay, I guess. And then there's a cameo appearance from another Batman villain. He doesn't get named. It's pretty obvious who it is. I won't give it away. But what I will say is I thought it was a pretty rubbish version of the character. So that's that. As far as the story goes, you've got a couple of storylines going on. Bruce Wayne has a storyline. He discovers stuff he didn't know about his parents. That's okay. But they change stuff about them, about their past, about their history. And they change the reason why they got killed, rather than it just being a robbery gone wrong. I didn't like that. But other than that storyline's okay. Catwoman's got a storyline about she's lost her girlfriend. Where is she? That's okay, I guess. But the main storyline, obviously, is the Riddler one. And again, I didn't like it. It's this whole, kidnapping and murdering storyline, and him being kind of deranged. So I just didn't like that at all. The other thing I didn't like about it is you get to a point where the storyline is kind of done. You know, it's all done, it's finished off, tied up with a neat bow, and then they're like, oh, but here's stage 2. No mention of any stage 2 or anything else before this point, and then suddenly stage 2. And it's like there's 2 parts to stage 2. One part involves a bunch of other people, and one part involves a lot of, let's say, terror and destruction. So I didn't like that, the fact this suddenly appears from nowhere. It's like they've come up with the storyline for the Riddler, and they've had 2 possible endings. One of them is like the kidnapping and murdering ending, and the other ending was the terror and destruction ending. And they've picked the kidnapping and murdering ending. And then when they've finished it off, someone's gone, why don't we stick the other one on the end? So they've just stuck on the end result of the terror and destruction storyline as well, and just added another like half hour to the film. So that's just what it felt like. It just felt like they had another idea and just tagged it on the end. So I did not like that. Didn't like the Riddler storyline at all. Other than that, you've got fight sequences are all pretty good. Catwoman, I don't remember much about her fight sequences, to be honest. I seem to remember her, you know, someone would jump out and she'd kick them a couple of times with her skinny little stick legs and they'd fall down. Batman, his fights are really good. They're really, the word that popped into my head was impactful. When he punches someone, it really feels like he's really punched them. You know, it's like the other person's kind of hit him, but Batman's done all his training and he's looking to put people down with one punch. That's what it's really good fight scenes. And the bit when you get onto the stage 2 of the Riddler's plan, the bit that involves all the other people, there's a really good fight scene then. So good fight scenes. The action scenes, they're really good as well. The Batmobile chase sequence, I loved that. If you've seen the trailer, you've probably seen a bit of that. There's a big gunfight going on, and then suddenly there's this noise and everyone just stops and they just look and they're all like, what the hell is that? And it's Batman starting up the Batmobile. So Penguin goes off, jumps in a car and goes flying off. Not the Penguin mobile, but he goes flying off. Batman chases him in the Batmobile and there's this big chase sequence. Seems to go on for ages. I don't know how long it actually goes on for, but, you know, dodging in and out of traffic and lorries flipping over. Really good action sequence. Absolutely loved it. So that's it. I guess I don't want to, you know, go on too long, say too much about it. So on the whole, I kind of enjoyed it in general, but there's a lot of stuff in it that I just did not like. Points wise, if I was going to give it points, I don't really kind of like, I'd say it was kind of in the middle for me out of all the Batman live action films. It's maybe not, it's certainly not top 3, maybe just pushing on the top 5. I may change my mind once I see it again or once I've seen future films. If I was going to score it, I'd got maybe 6 out of 10. And before you're all up in arms saying it should be more than that, let me just say it would have scored more if for no other reason than Pattinson's Batman and Colin Farrell's Penguin. But it has lost points because of the whole, it's a different DC universe, it's a different timeline, it's a different Batman thing. Because I know that means in future films and spin-off TV shows, it just means they're going to change storylines and characters around, and I'm just going to hate a lot of it. So that was it for me. So yeah, the Batman, pretty good. Just the whole changing stuff around really kind of killed it for me. Particularly the main villain, the Riddler. Just hated this version of the Riddler. So there we go. That is my initial thoughts and reactions to the Batman. That is it for this video. Until next time, remember, hit the thumbs up below and I will see you in the next one.